Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and hi if you're new here, I'm Jade. And obviously recently I sorted out my TBR. So I thought it would be kind of fun to go through my TBR and see what I predict might end up as 5-star reads for me. Obviously, I could be very wrong on any of these predictions, but I'm going to go on what I sort of know of the book, whether I really think it's like really my thing or not. Maybe if I've read the author before, what I usually score them. So it's just like a little bit of a fun thing. Let's go through, see what I think might be 5 stars for me. Because obviously, I am hoping to get through a good chunk of these this year. I don't think I will get through all of them because there will be some sort of new reads that I buy and things for my book clubs. But I'm hoping to get through a good amount of them. So hopefully throughout the year as we go through, we can see if my 5-star predictions were correct or not. So I think let's look at my top shelf first. Let me go through, pick off what I think might be 5 stars. Now, everything at the front on that front top row are books to continue in a series. And honestly, having like a quick look at them, I'm honestly not confident that any of them will be a 5-star, but we'll see. I might pick one out as a prediction, but I just don't think so with the rest of them, sadly. So yeah, if I'm to pick any out from my next book in a series, it's going to be this one. And that is Pop Goes the Weasel by M.J. Arlidge. This is the second book in this sort of detective thriller series. It's like a British series. At least the first one was very, very British. And I really liked the first one. It had a little bit of an interesting sort of concept. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the second one, to be honest. I just bought it, or got my mum to get it for me for Christmas. But I just got it because I love the first one so much. So I do have high hopes that this could also be a 5-star read for me. The reason I'm not picking anything else up there is I either didn't rate the first book in the series 5 stars, or I feel like there was something I found out that in the first books that made it 5 stars for me that I just don't feel like I will have any more sort of excitement or shock from as the series progress. I still have high hopes that I will love all of those books, but I just don't think that any of them are going to make 5 stars, but I could be wrong on that too. But yeah, let's start with this one. I think Pop Goes the Weasel is going to be 5 stars for me. And then I just had a quick scan through the back row of the top of my TBR cart. And I have picked off The Women by Kristin Hannah because I love her books. I gave 5 stars to The Great Alone. I gave 5 stars to The Nightingale. So I'm thinking that hopefully this one might also be 5 stars for me. I do also have The Four Winds on my TBR, and hopefully that could be 5 stars for me too, but I think this one's more likely. Just from what I've heard and what the premise of the story is, I do quite like a sort of war novel sometimes, so I think that this one is more likely to be 5 stars for me. So we're going to go with Kristin Hannah's The Women. And let me put these back because otherwise everything's going to get disarrayed and I'll be reorganizing again. And then we'll do the second tray. So the top of my cart, as I said, the front row is next book in a series. There's also a couple of historical fiction. That's why The Women was up there. And it's also got my sort of like sci-fi books up there. I didn't pick any of them as a 5-star because they're a little bit off the wall for me to judge. I haven't read a lot of sci-fi. I'm definitely not a sci-fi expert. So I didn't feel confident enough to say, yes, I think they'll be 5 stars for me. Now, this second shelf is a lot of general fiction. There's some more historical fiction on there as well. So that's mainly the genres we're looking at. Let me have a look. Let's see what we think could be 5 stars. Okay, I've picked a few off of this shelf and I feel like I could have picked more. Like there are some like The Sweet Française and The Violinist of Auschwitz. I often quite like books, you know, as I said, set in war, and I do think they have potential. But I've gone for the ones that I am a little bit more confident that I feel like I'm likely to give 5-star ratings to. So the first one I picked off the shelf was The Favourites by Layne Fargo. I bought this last year and I wanted to read it and I still haven't got around to it, but I really want to add it to my TBR very, very soon. The reason I'm picking this as a 5-star prediction is a lot of influencers that I follow, a lot of booktubers, all seem to love this one and we often have similar tastes, so that's the main reason, but also just because the story is very much my kind of thing. I used to love watching Dancing on Ice, and this kind of sounds a little bit like a Torval and Dean kind of thing, you know. No, it's not, but it has that kind of vibe, okay? And even though this is just a fictional story, I feel like I'm gonna really just love where this goes. So hopefully I'm right and I end up giving this 5 stars. I also picked out A Man Called Oath from Fredrik Backman. I generally love all his books. Now, if you did watch my January wrap up, I gave Beartown 4.5 stars, but that's just because it was so sport heavy. But obviously, this isn't about sports. And I love Fredrik Backman's writing. I find it really emotional. I usually find it quite easy to connect to. So I have real high hopes that this is going to be kind of devastating for me and give me a 5-star rating because of the emotions in it. And then kind of for the same reason, I picked out Fredrik Backman's My Friends. I know a lot of people read this last year when it came out, and, you know, a lot of people have said this is his best book. So I have to have high hopes for this one because Anxious People, I absolutely loved last year. And I know it has quite a different vibe I've heard from like a lot of his other books, but I just loved it. And I still loved Beartown. You know, if it wasn't quite so just focused on the sports at the beginning, that would have easily got a 5-star from me. So I feel like anything really by Fredrik Backman has a really high potential to get a 5-star rating from me. And then the final one I've picked from this shelf is a little bit off the wall. It's a bit of a riskier pick, I'm not gonna lie. But it is Mitch Albom's Twice. The reason I've picked this is the story just sounds like my kind of thing. And honestly, I have not seen any booktubers I follow talk about or review this book. I bought it when it first came out actually, and I really, really wanted to read it at the time. Another one I haven't got around to because, you know, I have too many books. But I love a like second chance novel. And this whole book is about that. It's about being able to go back and change what you did. So this person can actually go back and redo things in their life, but they can only do each thing twice. So they can't have like infinite choices. So it's kind of similar, you know, to the concept of Midnight Library, where she could see if she'd made a different decision, what the outcome would have been. But in this case, our character can go back, but they can only change things twice. And then it, you know, permanently changes. So I think that's a really cool concept. So I'm going to risk this one and say 5 stars just because of the concept sounds amazing. But we'll see. Once again, let me put these back. And then we're going to move to the bottom one, which you can't really see from there, but you'll see what I pick off of it. So the bottom shelf is all like my standalone romances, and I feel like it's hard to predict on a romance because it's either going to hit or it's not. And for me, it just needs to have that perfect level of rom-com cheesiness, but without being so predictable that I'm bored. I would say overall I'm quite easy to please with a romance. I don't hold them to like a super high standard. When I tend to rate my books, I tend to compare them to others in the genre rather than, you know, against other genres, because I feel like the complexity in other genres is usually there a little bit more, and it's not really fair to like compare all of that. And there was a few that I was tempted to reach for on here. Like I do have a couple of Emily Henrys, but they are ones that I often hear are not people's favorites, like Beach Read. So I was like, maybe they won't be 5 stars for me because I just read Book Lovers and I love that one. And I'm like, is anything going to hold up to that? I'm not sure. So I've left Emily Henry on the shelf. I also have Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood, and I've loved Ali Hazelwood so far. But again, I just don't know if this story is going to be quite as me as the other ones I read. So I've left that there too. So the first book that I have gone for is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I have had this on my TBR for years. It's terrible. I really should have picked it up by now. But I always hear that it's sad, and I feel like a lot of the time I'm like, oh, I don't want to go for that at the moment, and I just haven't, even though I do quite like a good cry to a book, I'm not going to lie. So, you know, if it is sad, I should just pick it up. Like, I kind of enjoy it once it actually happens. It's just sometimes the thought of it. And I know it's a movie too, and actually my friend watched the movie really recently and was like, you need to watch this movie, and I was like, I need to read the book first because it's been on my TBR for so long. Do I even want to admit how long this has been on there? Honestly, probably like 6 years, maybe more. Yeah, probably more. Not as long as The Book Thief had been when I picked that for when I got my TBR jar prompt of longest book, because I'd purposely been holding on to that one. But this is not far behind. But yeah, as my friend loved the movie, and I've only ever heard anything like praise for this book, I'm putting it in the 5-star prediction category. And I've also picked off Variation by Rebecca Yarros. I tend to really like her books in general. I mean, I haven't read loads of them. I think I gave In the Likely Event 4.5 stars. Obviously, Fourth Wing, etc. 5 stars. I gave The Last Letter 5 stars. That is probably my favourite book by her. easily. So I just have high hopes for Variation because I've heard really good things about it. The only books that I've really heard negative things from Rebecca Yarros is Great and Precious Things, I think. So I was like, you know what? I will say 5 stars for this because I usually really like her writing. So it's kind of from knowledge of the author that I'm going with a 5-star prediction. Okay, I've shifted angle a little bit. So you can see all the piles that are next to my TBR. We've got to remember my thrillers are in the cupboard, so I will get them out at the end and we will go through them. There are a few in these piles that are mixed up with the genres now because a few new books have appeared and I've just put them on the piles. And what I will say about new books is I've actually just started one that I've only just bought, and it's called The Poet Empress by Shen-Tao, and I do predict that it's going to be a 5-star for me. I'm only about 70 pages through it. I only started it today, but I do predict that one's going to be a 5-star. I don't have it with me right now. It's downstairs where I was reading it, but I do predict that one is a 5-star read, okay? Note that. Check at the end of the month when I do my wrap up. Did it get 5 stars? But yeah, we have a lot of books here in the pile. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to pick out what I think are my most likely 5-star reads, and we can talk about them. Okay, this was hard. Like, I feel like I have a lot that have the potential to be 5 stars there, but I've gone with the ones that I have the highest hopes for, that I feel like are the most likely. So let me show you. I've still got them packaged up. So basically, The Poppy War, book 1 in this series, from R.F. Kuang. Overall, I have really enjoyed R.F. Kuang's writing. I love Yellowface, and I enjoyed Catabasis, but I feel like the story of this is more up my alley than both of those, and I did give a 5 stars to Yellowface. Pretty much any booktubers that I have seen talk about this seem to adore it. I've seen a lot of people talk about it on Facebook, on Reddit, on other platforms, and I'm like, yes. I really need to get around to starting this series because I'm so excited for it. I really am. But there's so many books. Just so many books. But I do think that when I start this series, I have high hopes for a 5-star here. So the next book I have gone for is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I haven't actually read anything by Fonda Lee as of yet, so it's a little bit of an off-the-wall pick. But there are 2 reasons. First reason is I picked this because it's a fantasy with my name in the title, and therefore I have to trust that it's going to be good because it's called Jade City. That being said, I picked a book with my name in last month and it was my worst read of the month. So if you saw my wrap up and the one with Jade in it, yeah, it wasn't great. But this sounds more like my kind of thing. This is about battles between clans and using Jade as magic, and you know, I'm very magic, obviously. So yes, the name and the topic of the book is one reason I've picked it as a 5-star prediction. The other reason is, even though I've had this on my TBR for ages, I have seen quite a few people read this since on BookTube, and they seem to really enjoy it, so that gives me high hopes. And the next book I've gone for is Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. Again, so many people seem to talk and praise this book up so much that I have really high hopes. It kind of sounds a little bit like The Hunger Games, but like with more like trial games, I guess. Or at least that seems to be how it seems described by a lot of people. I don't know too much, but I just love the concept. There are quite a lot of books of late about sort of challenges and things about where the victor gets granted something, but I always enjoy them. Like, I haven't found one that I don't really enjoy, so therefore I just hope that I'm going to love this one too. The next one is For Whom the Bell Tolls by Jaysea Lynn. This is another one that will appear in my wrap up at the end of the month because it is on my TBR for this month as chosen by my TBR jar and my Instagram followers. I had just seen this mentioned so much, especially on like Facebook book groups I'm in. So many people had spoke about it. So I really wanted to get this. It just sounded really interesting, sounded like my kind of thing. And actually, only the other day, I saw someone post that this book for them was like life-changing and that they would recommend it as the book above everything else for everyone to read. So I have to say, I've got real high hopes of this one being 5 stars. And if it doesn't, I think I'm going to be really disappointed, I'm not going to lie. And then the next one I've gone for is Red City by Marie Lu. Again, the main reason is some booktubers I follow have recommended this book. I've seen it mentioned a few times. And honestly, like the premise of it about where you know, it's about a poorer protagonist trying to look out for a better life, is quite a common trope that I seem to really enjoy in stories. Actually, the story I'm reading right now, The Poet Empress, which I mentioned I thought would be 5 stars, is also a very sort of similar concept. I'm sure they're very different overall in plot, but the premise is there. Hopefully this one's 5 stars. And then the final one I've gone for is Gone Before Goodbye by Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben. This is actually my book club's pick for this month. So I again think this is going to be another 5-star read of this month. This month should be a strong month if my predictions are correct. Why have I gone for 5 stars for this one? Well, honestly, never read a Harlan Coben book actually, but I've obviously seen a lot of the Netflix shows. I always enjoy them. I love a good sort of like murder mystery. But honestly, the only reason this has suddenly made my cut is someone in my book club posted that they loved the book. And honestly, they often hate a lot of what we read. And I feel like they're quite a harsh judge on books compared to me. So if they love it, I have real high hopes that I'm going to love it. So that is everything from out here. So I'm going to get my thrillers out from the cupboard. We'll go through them. And then that will be everything from my TBR checked and all my predictions made. And we will see if any of them come true over the year, especially this month. Quite a few of them are going to be in this month, so make sure you do read my reading wrap up. Okay, I just went through my thrillers in the cupboard because it was easier than dragging everything out. I have to say, with a lot of my thriller books, a lot of them are authors I haven't read, so it's kind of harder for me to tell. So I have kind of just picked out the famous ones here. So my first 5-star prediction out of my thriller backlog. Obviously, I get that the Harlan Coben one's a thriller, but that's new. Okay, so that it's not from my backlog. I read The Family Upstairs and that duology. I loved the first book. I gave it 5 stars. I gave the second one 4.5 just because I think the shock factor was taken out of it by the time you've read the first one. I think I gave it 4.5. It might have only been 4. I don't know. It was still good. But I've heard a lot of people mention this particular one by Lisa Jewell, so that's why I've picked this out as a 5-star prediction. And then my final 5-star prediction is Never Lie by Freida McFadden. I know some are going to roll your eyes at this. I know there's a lot of people that are just not fans of Freida McFadden. But for those of you that are, I've heard from most good Freida McFadden fans that this is her best book. And I gave the first book in the Housemaid series a 5-star rating. I thought it was great. I loved the twist. And I kind of like that her books are just easy to get into, to be honest. So therefore, as I have repeatedly seen this mentioned as her best book, I have to say, this has got to be a 5-star for me. Otherwise, it's going to be a real letdown. But there we have it. We have gone through the whole entire TBR. And we've picked out what I predict is going to be 5-star ratings for me this year, regarding I read all of these this year. If not, next year, hopefully. But I feel like most of the ones I've picked out probably will get read this year. So if you've watched this, please come along to each of my monthly wrap-ups, see if any of them are there. Let me know if you've read any of these and agree that you think I'm going to like them and give them 5-star ratings. And obviously, hopefully, a lot of the other things on my TBR are also going to be 5-star ratings, but I feel like they're just a little bit harder for me to predict. And of course, there are lots of new books coming out this year, and I definitely have a few 5-star predictions within them. The Shield of Sparrows sequel that is coming out, I have very high hopes that is going to be a 5-star for me. Also with the second part of The Night in the Mall. And also the second part of When the Moon Hatched. Quite a few exciting sequels this year that definitely reached my predictions, but obviously I don't own them yet. But I do realise we've spoken about quite a few books today, so if you can't remember, they will all be listed in the description what my 5-star predictions are. We can refer to that list, we can go back to it, so we can see if I'm right. And maybe later on in the year, I'll do a little reflection on that. But yeah, this has been fun. It's like really nice to sort of go through my TBR and really absorb what is in it. Obviously, when I organised it, I kind of did, but I feel like sometimes you just have to go back through and really see what's on there. And it's kind of exciting to see how many books I am predicting are going to be 5 stars for me. But let me know what you predict is going to be your next 5-star read, and I will see you again real soon. Bye!